Hello, this is the Watchdog, and welcome back to Fun with Watches. If watches weren't fun, you'd only need one. Today, we're going to do a comparison video. We're going to compare the Poedagar 988 versus the Benyar BY5102M budget suede strap chronograph. Let's start out with the wrist check. I'm wearing the Skimmy 9133, and Grogo's wearing my Smil 8059. Grogu said he saw a movie that took place during the Clone Wars when Jar Jar led a team of commandos to take out large cannons placed on the outskirts of Theed. It is called the Gungans of Naboohome. All right, let's take a look at the watches. On the left, we have the Poedagar, and we have just a little tiny cleaning cloth. But the Poedagar came with an extra battery, so that's always nice. But anyway, here's the Poedagar. And the Benyar comes in this little bit nicer box. And it comes with one of these wonderful cleaning cloths. They're the same as the Benyar design cleaning cloths. I just love these things. And then you actually get a hang tag, an unsigned warranty card, and all that stuff. And here's the Benyar. So we got the Poedagar on the left and the Benyar on the right. As you can see, they're fairly similar. They're both chronographs with 3 registers with the dates at the 3 instead of the 430 because of the way the subdials are positioned. And as you can see, they both have suede straps. So, and they're both blue because I like blue. So let's go ahead and start with the comparison. They're both very similarly sized. The Poedagar is 44.5 millimeters at the bezel, and the Benyar is 44 millimeters. And the Poedagar is 50 millimeters lug to lug, and the Benyar is 49, so that's only 1 millimeter's difference. The Poedagar is 14.5 millimeters thick if you count the dome crystal, and the Benyar is 14.2, so very similar. They both have 22 millimeter lug width, and the Poedagar weighs 80 grams, and the Benyar only weighs 65 grams. So the Poedagar is a good 15 grams heavier, which is kind of surprising since they're so similarly sized. Then we have the tachymeter. The Poedagar has a external tachymeter on a bezel, and I don't know if this is actually ceramic or some kind of nice plastic, probably ceramic. And the Benyar has an inner tachymeter, so it just has a smooth bezel. So that by far is the biggest difference between the two. I call this an innie and this an outie. And then if you look at the dials themselves, the Poedagar has a really significant sunburst effect, and the Benyar not so much. You can see a little bit of sunburst, but hardly any. And the Poedagar has a little bit lighter blue shade, where the Benyar is a little bit more navy. They both have a similar layout in the dial. Of course, the biggest difference is the Benyar has a tachymeter on the inner bezel. Then they both have the minute markers, and of course they have sub-minutes and sub-seconds, even though it's not a big second-hand chronograph. So they're kind of useless there. And if you look at the Poedagar, the 12 o'clock looks like a Flieger 12 o'clock. And this one just has 2 dots there. The Poedagar, though, does have loomed indices where the Benyar does not. And then we have similar hands. The hands look a little bit more significant, though, on the Benyar. A little bit thicker. But the Poedagar has longer loom strips. Then if you look at the hands of the subdials, the Benyar has red tips and even a solid red hand where the minute counter is. So it's a little bit easier to see the hands on the subdial hands on the Benyar. Then they both have dates at the 3 instead of the 430 because of the layout of the movement. And they both have their names and logos printed on. Both of them, the top subdial is a sub-second counter. And the Benyar, though, has it correct because these are 2-second counters. So the Benyar has 0 through 10, 0 through 10, where the Poedagar is still a 2-second counter, but it counts only to 10 through the whole thing. So when you do it on the Poedagar, when you stop it, you have to double your count. Then they both have minute counters on the left for the chronograph, although the Poedagar looks a little bit bigger. They both have the chronograph second hand on the bottom. They both have unsigned crowns and unsigned pushers. If you look at the pushers, though, the Poedagar has outies and the Benyar has innies. Both only give you 30 meters of water resistance. The crown action on both of them is really loose, really loose. When you go to set them, though, you can really, oops, that one did it. You gotta hold the crown when you push it in, and then you can do it without an annoying minute hand jump. And that appears to be the case on both of them. You just gotta hold the crown when you push in, and then the minute hand won't jump. They both have domed mineral glass crystals. Of course, the Benyar crystal is just a bit bigger because of the lack of a bezel, or the lack of a larger bezel, I should say. But they both have about the same reflection. And then we have the cases. The cases are very different. The Poedagar, the lugs look like they're part of the case, where the Benyar, they look like they've been attached. Plus, of course, the Benyar case is a lot taller because of the lack of the tachymeter bezel. Then if you look at the case backs, the Poedagar has a press-on case back. You can see the little slot there. And the Benyar, though, believe it or not, has a screw down. I wasn't sure at first, but I couldn't find a slot, so I went ahead and got out the wrench and unscrewed it, and sure enough, it's a screw down. Now the thing, though, the biggest difference, this says stainless steel back, which is a good tell that the case is not, because I didn't mention that they're both chrome-plated alloy cases. The Benyar is famous for this. They say all solid stainless steel, which is a bold-faced lie. The case is not solid stainless steel. It's a chrome-plated alloy. Benyar does it on all of their watches, which is why the guy that does I Like Watches won't review Benyars. I just figure I'll still review Benyars even though they tell a big fib there, because I'm telling you that it's a fib. So at least you got me to correct them. Then, of course, the Benyar's got this frosted middle. This one does not. But anyway, I went ahead and popped the case and unscrewed the case to show you the movements. So I'll show you a picture of each. The Poedagar has a Sunan PE90. And there it is. This is, of course, a Chinese movement. And the Benyar has a Langixen LD57, which is a Japanese movement. But they seem to be very similar in functionality. Then we have the straps. They're both suede, and they're both about the same size. And they're both very similarly styled. We have the logos on one side. Then we have the names on the other. If you look at the Benyar, though, it's a bit darker than the Poedagar. And if you look at the texture of the suede, the Benyar just looks a little bit nicer. The Poedagar looks a little bit older, where the Benyar looks a little bit newer. but they're very similar. Then if you look at the insides, they're the same. It's the same material on the inside. And they both say genuine leather. Now if you look at the buckles though, the Benyar has a signed buckle and the Poedagar does not. Plus the prong of the Benyar looks a little bit sturdier, but there's not a big difference. Then they both have two keepers, one floating, one fixed. Here's the Poedagar on my 7.5-inch wrist. It's a big watch. As you can see, I can barely pull it off. If my wrist was much smaller, I'd have some serious overhang. I got 3 notches to loosen it and 4 notches to tighten it. So 8 1/4 is probably the best you're going to do without changing straps. But it looks nice. Here's the Benyar on my 7.5-inch wrist. They're very similarly sized watches, so there's not much of a difference there. And the straps are identical length. I got 3 notches left to loosen it and 4 notches left to tighten it. And once again, I can just barely pull it off because it's about the same size as the Poedagar. Here we are in the Lume room. Neither brand is known for good looms, so let's see who has the worst. As we speed up the time, we see that the Poedagar does indeed have awful loom, but the Benyar is even worse. The Benyar hands are barely better than the poorly loomed Poedagar indices, and they are already gone. The Poedagar hands are better, but still very bad. What about the Poedagar is better than the Benyar? Well, the price is cheaper. The loom is better, although the loom is still not good. And the Poedagar is more honest. It says stainless steel back. It doesn't say all stainless steel like the Benyar does. What is better about the Benyar than the Poedagar? Well, it has a screw down case back. I think the hands just look nicer, especially the subdial hands. And I think the movement's better because just Japanese movements trump Chinese, especially when it comes to this price range. Which watch do I recommend? It really depends on the tachymeter bezel. Do you want an innie or an outie? Neither watch is significantly better than the other to really make much of a difference. If you don't care about innie versus outie, I would say the Benyar looks a bit more modern, where the Poedagar is a bit more retro. If I was going to choose one, I would probably pick the Benyar for that reason. Well, thank you for watching my comparison video of the Poedagar 988 and the Benyar BY5102M. And I will be back with another review or unboxing. Be sure and like and subscribe to my channel. Bye.